Ridgely Goldsboro, let's get this party started.
Let's get this party started, shall we?
Do you know what tonight is?
Tonight is.
Mind Types After Dark.
It is. It is indeed. And
And you
it's
know
not
what?
dark
It's
where I am, though.
oh well, you will have to fill us in on your adventures. But let me mention this to the audience originally because this is kind of I said this a while back, and some people are starting to hold me to it. So, Ridgely, we need to do what we say we're gonna do.
Yup.
That's the theme of getting back to basics. Some people are missing the ye oldie mind types, right? And what better session than mind types after dark each month than to go back and revisit some of the mind types? Okay,
I
so now
agree.
I have a question for you though. Okay, and this is non-rehearsed. A new client asked me this, and I think I delivered a fairly reasonable answer. But okay, so originally, we're going to the source, you. Okay. Now,
Okay.
most of our people understand, and I certainly understand, the three steps of the partner attraction formula.
Hmm.
Okay? One is to use limbic messaging to make a sincere and authentic message that connects. Okay.
Hmm.
Two is to make all the copy and the experience you-centric, meaning centric to their potential partner, the customer, or whoever. And three is to have super clear call to actions. Okay.
Hmm.
A winning formula. You layer on top of that the use of AI to help you accomplish all three. Okay. But here's the question that really brings us back to the basics. The whole excitement about the mind types. And we have some new people, so you're gonna have to give us a whole, recapture of what it is and all of that stuff. But in that whole partner attraction formula framework, they asked me, well, what's the role of me understanding my own mind type? Okay, the through line. Okay,
Hmm.
so I said this, and you tell me, how I did. But I said that part one of the partner attraction formula, the using limbic messaging to make that emotional connection. The real secret to being able to confidently talk about yourself in a genuine and sincere manner comes from understanding yourself through the use of mind types, right? Like for myself, I wasn't ever comfortable, whether through my culture or whatever, of kind of tooting my own horn. But the second I understood my own self in the mind frames um, framework, in the mind types framework, it totally opened a new thing for me. Now, but beyond that though, like what's the through line from the mind types through the partner attraction formula through the AI techniques that we're doing now? Do you understand what I'm getting at? Like tie that together for us, please.
Well, so it's actually fairly profound and it's not obvious because so many people think, oh, I should talk to people so that they relate to me in the language that they understand. And it's counterintuitive because that's simply not true. You don't want all types of people to do business with you. You want your kind of people. And I say that broadly. We're going to focus in on mind types in just a minute. But I want to say that broadly first. We all like our kind of people. We don't like people who are super different or super weird or super out there or super whatever, unless that happens to be your mind type. So, one of the things that becomes so important in the authentic expression of ourselves is that we attract those people based on who we are, not based on what we think they need to hear. It's a little bit counterintuitive because so many people, oh man, I'm going to figure out my business avatar, the client that I really want, and I'm going to talk to them in their language. No, that's not true. That's not what you want to do. You want to express your authentic self so genuinely and naturally that you attract the right kind of people, regardless of their mind type, to do business with you. Because I don't have to have the same mind type as Hubert or anyone else, as long as we're vibing on the things that we care about, that we feel authentically and genuinely about. And this is a very big confusion that happens out there. So many people are like, let me use AI to figure out this avatar over here and this one over here. And then I'm going to use AI and I'm going to figure out how to create language for that type of person and for that type of person. And then and you can twist yourself into one big old knot of confusion trying to figure all that stuff out.
Right.
And even worse, even if you did, even if you were really good at all that stuff and you could figure it out, what are you going to end up with? A whole bunch of good, bad, and ugly, all kinds of people out there. And the reality is, if you're in business and you want to enjoy your business, and we spend at least 35% of our life at work, at least, if not more, then you don't want the bad or the ugly. You only want the good. And good being defined as those people who relate to you, who have a similar viewpoint of the world, who enjoy similar values. How are you going to only attract those people if you become really, really good at expressing who you are, at understanding your mind type and how to express that to the world, so the world either raises their hand, yes, or says, no, not for me.
Right.
And both of those are excellent answers. In fact, the second one, no, not for me, may even be the more important of the two when it comes to enjoying your business life.
Right.
Because you spend so much time in business, one or two bad apples as clients can wipe out 50 great ones.
Right.
So to understand how to express yourself in such a genuine way and use AI to help with that is critical. To try to use AI to figure out what everybody else needs to hear, it's a formula for a disaster. Did I
Awesome.
answer your question, man? That was a long
Yeah,
rant.
that
Sorry.
was a long rant, and that's necessary though, because I, for one, definitely need to be reminded of what the through line is. With all the excitement and the shiny new objects that have been popping up here and there, and they're incredible. But we like to ground ourselves in the basics. So I want to follow up with that. But before we do, I'm looking rigidly at the list of participants, and I know we have, quite a few new members that
Mhm.
haven't been around since, our focus on the mind types, that we used to put on it. So before we explain how there are 7 mind types and all of that, Ridgely, let's invite anybody that wants to, especially if you've never done this before. Ridgely can actually bring you on and ask you a couple of questions and help you identify which of the mind types you belong to. And everybody belongs to has a primary mind type, a secondary mind type, and even a tertiary mind type. But this is a fabulous opportunity for you to raise your hand and have Ridgely guide you through identifying your own mind type and helping illustrate how that can be part of your messaging. Ridgely, would you be up for that?
For sure. And I'll even take it a step further. We could, if someone wants to raise their hand. So, first of all, I'll go through the 7 mind types and describe them and why it's so important to understand each. Secondly, if somebody does raise their hand, and by the way, it's not mandatory. A lot of people are like, hey, man, I'll do that in private, but I'm definitely not doing this on the mastermind with a whole bunch of people on here. I get that. But if you do, I can also help you identify why that is important in your messaging, why in your messaging you want to be able to do that. And spend a little bit of time reminding all of us that authenticity is the number one currency out there right now. It is so crazy. I find myself almost on a daily, maybe not daily, but certainly weekly basis being reminded I want to be fully authentic. I want to be fully genuine. I want to show up in integrity always, no matter what, transparent. And life is so good when you do. And it can really be a bear when you don't. So we'll weave all of that stuff together here to just give you some guidance as to which direction you want us to go in. And it is Mind Types After Dark. So very grateful to be here. I always
That's
enjoy
awesome.
that. The sun is just going down where I am right now. So it's perfect.
You've been having some weather adventures, right? So before you tell us where you are and what's been happening with the weather in your location, if anybody does want to volunteer, or 2 people or so, just raise your hand or hit us up in the chat saying, you'd like to be a victim. We've never lost anybody on a live chat, Ridgely.
Not yet.
People
Not
break down and cry, but we've never actually lost
Yeah,
a
man.
signal.
Okay. So now you're going to scare them. Okay. And people do break down and cry, by the way. Sorry, but it is true.
There you go.
Um,
Okay, so now Ridgely, tell us where you are and tell us the weather challenges you've been having.
yeah, no, it's kind of interesting. I am in I have a number of family members in Telluride, Colorado. So the base here is a little over 9,000 feet. And today, it just started. This storm started rolling in, and we're supposed to go home tomorrow. And apparently, all of the flights out of Denver are already canceled, and we don't know if we're going to be leaving. And as I look out the window, and I probably could, I could just walk over for 1 second and share this with everybody where we are, because it is stunningly beautiful. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to get out of here. That's the only
Well,
problem.
yeah,
And
but
so,
this time you're in already because I know in previous years you haven't been able to get there because of
yeah.
storms.
So that's where we are.
Nice.
That is Telluride, Colorado, with a ton of snow, and it's snowing at the moment. So just
Awesome.
thought I'd share.
There you go. Well, enjoy being snowed in.
I just came back from one of my family members who is still going on. I came back to join you all for a book reading for his very first book. Rob Story wrote a book called Telluride Stories with a Z.
Right.
Telluride Stories. He was a super irreverent writer, worked for Powder Magazine, for Ski Magazine, for Bike Magazine. And tonight, his book is coming out, first book signing. Just left the place to come back to hang out with you guys. I will be inundated with family members in about an hour. So I thought, you know what? I'd rather come back and hang out with my Mind Types After Dark family.
Awesome. Now, Jim says that's where I am so that's what I am to expect in a few hours here. Thanks. Jim's
Yeah,
uh
there you go.
Jim's in Colorado, so
We may or may not get out tomorrow. We'll see.
well, there you go. Okay. Well, if you don't get out, I got a nice meeting for you to attend, so let me know. Okay, awesome. So everybody, please volunteer. We have Bridget that says, if nobody else volunteers, then she'll go. But yeah,
Okay.
especially if you haven't volunteered before, I pretty much Ridgely can guarantee you value from the conversation. Okay, so now Ridgely, while people are thinking about that, there are 7 mind types.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're traveling, so you don't have your cards.
What do you?
Your
So what?
mind type cards. Oh, you better yet. Look at that.
Hey man, do you think what I have chopped liver over here, bro?
Yeah, well,
Come on, come on, come on, come on now.
all right, lay it on us, brother.
All right, so there are 7 mind types, and what we mean by that is you have a default setting that you revert back to in the absence of intentionally and purposely thinking differently than the way you're wired. So I'm going to go through each of these mind types one by one, and I urge you think about how this applies to you, even if you've been around for a while. I saw some dear old friends are on the call tonight, mastermind members for a long time. Really appreciate that. I'm going to talk about why it's important to understand each of the mind types so that even if it's not yours, you still get some value out of this. And we'll do this, as Hewitt mentioned, about once a month, because you can never hear it enough times when all of a sudden the light bulb goes off of, oh, that's why that situation happened with this person. Oh, that's why this situation was so weird over here. Oh, there's so much of that. So there are 7. Again, trust your intuition. Think about what resonates with you as opposed to over analyzing, because to figure out your mind type, we have to tap into the limbic or emotional brain. That's where limbic messaging comes from, not into the neocortex or thinking brain. We have to find out where you live emotionally that drives the decisions and the behavior that you have on an ongoing basis. So with all that said, let's jump in. The giver. The giver is the person that always wants to make a difference, to add value, to have an impact with what they do. These are the people who just want to help. One of the things that they do is contribute in whatever way they can to causes that matter to them. Causes is their superpower. They're always participating in causes, whether that's a simple cause like helping with the PTA at school or with your community or with your spiritual organization or whatever, to wanting to literally alter the destiny of a nation. Think of someone like a Mother Teresa, for example. Rest in peace. So what is the kryptonite of the giver? The kryptonite of the giver is the fact that they have a really, really hard time saying no. They don't want to say no because causes is so important to them that they overcommit. And overcommitment, saying yes too many times, is the kryptonite of the giver. And for everyone listening, you may sometimes recognize being a mind type as your primary from either the superpower, oh, yes, I'm involved in so many causes, or the kryptonite. Oh, that's right. I'm always overcommitted. I always say yes to stuff when I don't have time for it, etc. So you can recognize it either way. And of course, I'll give you a quick recap at the end. Number two, this is mind type number two, the connector. The connector is the person that's all about bonds and relationships. These are the people for whom trust, which is their superpower, is everything. They will do whatever it takes to demonstrate to you that they can be trusted, that they are trustworthy, to the point that they'll do the extra, then the extra, then the extra, then even a little bit more to demonstrate their trustworthiness. And the problem is that the first extra takes any of us from being ordinary to extraordinary. All the other extras after that just make you nice. So it's a lot of wasted time. And the kryptonite of the connector is waste. All right, on to number three, the problem solver. The problem solver is the person who makes sense out of things, who simplifies things, who clarifies things. They're the people who are always coming up with options, possibilities, alternatives, and solutions, their superpower, to help you. So they're always thinking of ways to figure stuff out. What is the kryptonite of the problem solver? When they don't have enough data, they get what we call the dumb look. Have you ever been talking to somebody and they get that look and you know that they're alive because periodically they blink, but there's like nobody home because they don't have enough information and they go into a mush state that we call paralysis. That is the kryptonite of the problem solver. Obviously not a great place to hang out. Number four, the innovator. The innovator is the person who's always looking for a better way to do anything and everything. They're constantly asking questions. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this other thing? And how about this over here? Right? Looking to find a better way, whether it makes sense or not. Their superpower is improvements. They're really good at improving things, whether that's a simple process or a complex thing, it doesn't matter. But because they are always looking for that better way, the kryptonite of the innovator is change for change's sake. Sometimes change is too expensive or upsets morale or isn't appropriate. The innovator doesn't care. They just want to make it better. Where this is a better way, even if it'll cost twice as much. This is a better way, even though it pisses off a team. This is a better way. That's what they do. All right. Number five, the perfectionist. The perfectionist is the person that believes that if you do A, then B, then C, then D, E is predictable. You can see what's coming. They're all about doing things the right way. There's a right way to do things, and things should be done right, which means that if they're not done right, if there's any kind of chaos or disorder, perfectionists are very, very uncomfortable. The superpower of the perfectionist is systems. They love systems that work, implementing systems, following systems. Why? Because systems are predictable. Systems restore order. Systems eliminate chaos. That's what they love, and that's what they do. And obviously, we need people like this. Otherwise, how could we have buildings that work and roads, systems, and little stoplights that turn red when they're supposed to and green when they're supposed to, etc., if it weren't for these kind of people? What's their kryptonite? Rigidity. Sometimes they're just a little too my way or the highway. I just need it to be done right. I need these clothes to be hung up from white to yellow to orange to red in order, short sleeves, then long sleeves. Not even kidding. Just saying. All right. And then we have number six, the rebel. The rebel is the person who lives outside the box, thinks differently than everybody else. These are the disruptors, the people who are constantly trying to figure out, how do I challenge the status quo? How do I challenge the norm? How do I challenge the middle of the road perspective? Challenge the vanilla of everything. Obviously, you probably guessed already that the superpower of the rebel is to challenge. But because they do that all the time, people push them away. Like, wait a minute, stop challenging me. Stop doing that thing that you do. You're freaking me out. Enough already. And rebels will tend to isolate because they feel pushed away or misunderstood. And isolation becomes the kryptonite of the rebel. Finally, we have the master. These are the people who have super big brains, really enormous intellectual capabilities, massive brain power. And they're people that when they're interested in something, they want to take it to the next level, to the next level, to the next level until they master it, right? So the superpower of the master is depth. They want to go deep on something. How much deeper can I go until I get it and know how to use it and work with it? What is the kryptonite of the master? They tend to overcomplicate things for the rest of us with their giant brains. So their giant brains see many, many levels into the future. And when it comes out of their mouth, it becomes one of those, man, could you just give me the short version, please? I lost that whole thing there. So their kryptonite is complexity. Now, let me just really quickly give you that lineup real quick, if you will. First of all, you have the giver, mind type number 1. Superpower causes kryptonite overcommitment from saying yes to too many things. Number 2, the connector, all about bonds and relationships. Superpowers trust. Kryptonite waste from trying too hard to be trustworthy. Number 3, the problem solver, all about making sense out of things, clarifying things, simplifying things. Superpower solutions, which they give us, which is amazing. Kryptonite paralysis when they don't have enough data. Number 4, the innovator, the person that's always looking for a better way, constantly asking questions about everything. Superpower improvements, they're really good at them. Kryptonite, change for change's sake. Man, sometimes change does not make a lot of sense in different ways. Number 5, the perfectionist, always looking to do the things the right way to establish order, eliminate chaos. Superpower systems, kryptonite rigidity. There are more ways than one to do things. Number 6, the rebel, thinking outside the box, living differently than the rest of us. Superpower challenge, especially the status quo. Kryptonite isolation from challenging everything. And finally, we have the master, giant brain power, big intellectual capabilities. Superpower depth, they like taking things to the next level. And kryptonite complexity when they overcomplicate things with those giant brains. Hubert, that's the lineup. And
I
open to
love
questions.
hearing the explanations. Can you share that screen again? Because I want to ask you a follow-up question about this and also make a point. I remember when we were developing the system way back when, some people were saying, oh, but there's the infinite variety of people out there. You only have 7 mind types. And then you said, but what about your secondary mind type and even your tertiary mind type? Now, can you explain then how each of us have a primary mind type? And also answer the question that always comes up, well, can my mind type change? And then you always say, well, no. And I want to hear why. But can you please explain the concept of each of us having a primary mind type, a secondary mind type, even a tertiary mind type, and how that all adds up to accommodate the uniqueness among all these humans? Because you always explain, well, the permutations are actually much bigger than you think.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's what makes human beings so interesting. I've had some fabulous conversations in the last few months with people who've said to me, wow, this system is so powerful, yet so deep. And the way that I interpret that is, hey, there's some incredible systems out there to understand yourself. And I believe in getting as many tools as you can have to put in your arsenal to make you a better person, to help you share your product and service with others. Fantastic. Whether that's DISC or Strength Finders or Predictive Index or whatever, there's a ton of them. But not a ton, but there are a number. Most of those require an interpreter. And that's where I think they fall down. What I love about mind types is the ability to walk into an organization, deliver a workshop where we figure out everyone's mind type, where we answer questions about the dynamics between different mind types, and people walk out of that room in one day understanding who they are much better, who their colleagues are, how to interface better with those people, how to get more congruencies, eliminate confusion, and understand each other to the point where the culture of an entire organization is elevated in a single day. I love that. So with that in mind, the primary mind type is your default setting. It's the setting that you go back to when you're not thinking about it, when you're not intentionally trying to put on the superpower, the cape of a different mind type. So for example, my primary mind type is the problem solver. I always think in terms of how do we make sense out of this? How do I clarify this? How do I simplify things? Now, my secondary is the giver. Do I want to contribute in lots of ways to causes all over the place? Of course, I'm a serious spiritual leader. I take care of a lot of people, etc., but only in the way that it makes sense to me. Because making sense out of things, creating solutions is my primary mind type as a problem solver. So I'm not going to just jump in and randomly help people because of it feels good. It has to make sense. However, the giver is that person who will randomly jump in and help people because that's what feels right to them. They're just very altruistic, very open in their giving nature. I give a lot, but only if it runs through my primary mind type of making sense out of things. So you once you know your primary, your secondary, when you get down to your tertiary, it's a little bit more difficult, but usually why you do what you do is your primary mind type. I have to make sense out of things. I had a very abusive childhood. It was extremely difficult. And the only way I could survive was by somehow making sense out of something, right? Once I discovered all of that, I also discovered about myself that I love to contribute. So my secondary is being the giver. So how I make sense out of things is often by contributing. So my why to make sense out of things, how shows up as a as a different mind type, contributing, and then what you do often shows up as your tertiary. They're all super related. So that means that in terms of permutations, there are 7 primary mind types times 6 secondary mind types, time 5 leftover tertiary mind types, or 210 permutations as to what a human being can be in this ecosystem, which makes us all so unique and so diverse. Hubert, did I answer that question or
Yes, and I love that. I love that.
put
Uh,
a light on it?
Bill is jumping in with a question, which is, you reference putting on the cape of another mind type, and I love that metaphor because it allows us to understand the availability of the superpowers of each of the mind types. And so, originally, explain to us how we can actively assume the role of a certain mind type, metaphorically borrowing the cape of that mind type to get its superpower. And how does that, how does that help us, and when should we do that?
So if you think about each of these mind types, when kindness is called for, what would you want to, what cape would you put on? The giver. When connection is called for or healing is called for, who would you want to look for? The connector. When sorting something out is called for, who would you look for? The problem solver. When finding a different or better way of doing things is called for, who would you want? The innovator. When putting something in place that works on a continuous basis, who would you look for? The perfectionist. When you need something different, something outside the box, a complete disruption, you want a rebel. When you want to take something to a new level, to go deeper, you want the master. With the exception of the master, because the masters, unfortunately, they're the smallest number of mind types, only 2%, and you're just born with the brain that you're born with. Most of us cannot really put on the cape of the master. But all of the others, every one of us can decide in this given moment, I intentionally need more kindness. Let me put on the superpower cape of the giver. In this given moment, I've just got to find a better way to do this thing that's driving me crazy. Let me put on the cape of the innovator. And you can consciously think like that. Doesn't mean it's natural to you, but you can embrace that in the moment, knowing that when you stop volitionally or intentionally moving in that direction, you're going to default back to whatever your primary mind type is. And that's cool. In terms of percentages, half the world primary mind type is either giver or connector, 20 to 30% each. about 15% are problem solvers, 10% are innovators and perfectionists, about 5% rebels, and 2% masters. So
I'm
there's
so glad
a
you covered the percentages because that's always a follow-up question. Now, I have a couple of things to add and kind of for all of us to reflect on. So, originally, I beg to differ and say that everybody can adopt the cape of the master because I see a couple of master friends on the list here, and they can all tell you it's easy to take on the approach of the master because the master is all about repetition. Anybody, regardless of their native primary mind type, would benefit from mere repetition of trying a certain thing over and over again. With the masters, if somebody claims to know something, the first thought that the master says is, how do you know? How many times have you tried it? Oh, I tried it once. Or the innovator is like, oh, I haven't tried it at all, but that's definitely the key. Like, how do you know? Right. And so putting your licks in and getting that repetition, that's the master's superpower. And so I think you can act as the master. Now, the other thing I
hold on.
reflect on
We need
too.
another opinion here. I'm bringing in
Oh,
Bridget.
okay.
I'm bringing in Bridget so we can
Okay.
debate
If we bring in Bridget, let's bring in Bridget. And
because
then
she's a fellow master, and so
yeah.
we're going to have this discussion openly
Okay.
because I and not only is she a master, but she has a very unique specialty
Hello,
besides
Bridget.
being a graphic artist, that she is one badass karate chick. Okay.
Yes.
So how long have you been practicing karate now, Bridget?
You're on mute there.
Since 1985.
There you go.
Since 1985. So if there's a problem, just stand behind her is all I'm saying. So just get out of the way, stand behind Bridget. You'll be in good shape.
I'll
Okay.
actually probably outrun you.
There you go. No. Wait, originally, before we continue, let's help celebrate with Bridget. Bridget said she dropped this a couple of minutes ago, a while back. I just used limbic messaging for a high stakes job interview. I got the wow response. I used the PAF brain for the executive summary, for their executive summary, and then did their we believe statements and shared one with them. So good for you, Bridget. Tell us about it. It was
Tell us a little bit.
deal.
Come on, share a little bit, because we love to celebrate wins.
Well, this is an owner of a company, very high level, future thinking AI company. And he saw my LinkedIn profile and he wants to offer me a full-time job. And I said, well, let's have a conversation. And so in that, I thought, I want to know more about their company and whatever. And he acted like he wasn't the owner. He acted like he was one of the workers. And so I ran the thing and picked out one of my favorite limbic messages. And then when he said, I own the company, okay, so I have a different listening, but it was interesting because you're looking for a really high-end presentation designer. And, their scope changed a little bit, like I'm not willing to work on site, or relocate. And he said, most of these presentation designers, they don't want to relocate, why is that? And so I gave him a reason why, because most people probably won't tell you.
Right.
So it was good. And I never did that before. I never shared a limbic message, but I says, I'm deep into this limbic message thing. I think it's really powerful. I just want to share one with you. Is that okay? And he said, sure. I don't think he knew how to really take it in, but he did definitely go, wow, so.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Great.
So now let's have this debate for a second, because and again, for everybody that's watching, this is a very interesting situation, right? Because Hubert and I have been partners for now, like, I don't know, 14 years. It seems like 400 years, whatever, since forever. We watching children grow up and get old and whatever. And I often act as the interpreter of Hubert's genius. And I have no problem acknowledging that Hubert has the biggest brain that I know of, and that I hang out with that brain on a very regular basis. At the same time, I also realize that somebody has to take that brain and interpret it, because otherwise it just gets so complicated and so whatever, that Hubert has such incredible intellectual capabilities that he will go so deep on something that a lot of times economically that does not make any sense. It's like, no, man, no, this is already great. It does not have to be super great. It is great. We're good enough with great. Okay, so we need to move on and get the shit done. Excuse my French. So, mind types after dark, we can talk this way. I am not sure that I agree with the idea that people can put on the cape of the master, because unless you have the innate desire to be willing to go through that repetition, that becomes super hard. We live in an ADD, shiny penny world. And so I'm throwing this question at Bridget saying, hey, how many people walk into your dojo and they want to get a black belt? And you look at them and you go, oh, yeah, you say you're going to work hard enough to get that black belt? Well, we'll just see how that works. Well, give me some color on that. Come on.
Actually, we hold space that they will make it, we don't want to deflate them, but by the same token, yes, it's very rough, because when you first start a martial art, there's a lot of repetition. And it seems like we've done this 100 times. Why do we have to keep doing it? And it's like 5 years later, we've done this a million times. We got to keep doing it. And like 15 years later, the same thing. And I think what happens as you go, you get different levels of understanding, and it's never enough,
What's it like for you? So myself, having been a much lower level martial artist than you, but what's it like for you to throw a punch today? Does it feel different than it felt 10 years ago?
Yes.
So how? Tell me about that.
I feel like I could, my fist will go through their chest and into the wall.
Yeah, see, that's like, okay, that's pretty interesting, right? But that takes 35 years, and most people don't feel that way. Like I said, if you're in trouble, just stand behind Bridget, okay? That's all I'm saying, because I'm like, when somebody gets to that level of proficiency, but do you think, Bridget, I'm not asking you, Hubert, I already heard your opinion, but I'm asking Bridget, do you think that we know they can put on the cape of every other mind type, but do you think people can put on the master cape? I mean, seriously, I'm not sure they can.
I agree with that. I think it would be kind of hard. It's like we're, kind of from outer space or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's
I
strange.
think you are from outer space. I think it is a very different space. That master just looks at things differently. I can't even express to everybody on this call how many emails I get or communication from Hubert at 3 and 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. It's like all the time. It's not even unusual for me. And on the once in a while occasions, once every 2 weeks or so, that I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm working in my office at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, there's Hubert answering my stuff. Hey man, what's going on? That is not normal, dude.
Well, that's the thing about working with masters. If you don't want that level of answer, don't ask a master.
Mm.
Right? So lately, like today and yesterday, I've been having some challenges in our work environment, and people are like, look at this reply that Hubert sent me. Like, it's 10 pages. Then why did you ask me in the first place? Don't casually ask me if you don't want that answer. There are plenty of other people you can ask if you only wanted like somebody to agree with you or somebody to give you a cursory answer. So, you got to do some homework before you like ask a master.
Or somebody who would just want to make sense out of whatever you got going on in just a few
sentences. Yeah, exactly. So now, right, there you go. So now here's the other thing, the other point, Bridget, that I wanted to make, that's so liberating about like understanding your primary mind type. And that superpower that you have as your primary mind type, because it's your primary mind type, you don't have to like do anything to channel it. You don't have to put on this cape or anything else. You just have to show up and be there. Okay. That native mind type, right? Originally, how many work, camps have we been to or these in-person groups where they invariably talk about like some sort of crisis moment in their company. And the number one preferred mind type to be in charge during a crisis moment is the problem solver. Because while everybody else is falling apart, the problem solver is like, folks, here's what we need to find out. This is the input we need. This is what we do. Right, Richley? I mean, like, at times of crisis, you revert to your native mind type. And so if your native mind type you recognize is, suitable for this, that, or the other crisis situation, you can take that to the bank and just let people be themselves.
No, 100%. And you're right. It's I was having this conversation this morning with a client because we had a business crisis. I mean, you've been saying, Hubert, there have been some difficulties. We've had some challenges. Hey, man, we own a business. We've had some rough kind of stuff go on in the last couple of days that we have had to deal with successfully, by the way. And with the client, I was like, don't worry, I got this. Whatever. And then the client pings me back and saying about the person that was causing the problem, don't mess with this guy, so and so, whatever, referring to me, because they're right. In this moment, I get super cold, super fixed, super whatever. Give me the data, let me process it, let me come up with a solution. I'm good at this. And it serves me in my role as a leader of a company. But it never takes away from, wait a second, what is your primary mind type? Bridget is so good at a number of things, and I love her for that. Hubert is stupidly good at a lot of things, a lot of them that I don't care about at all, but the ones that I do care about impact our business in a very big way, and I love him for that. And to the extent that you can figure out who you are and what you believe and what you stand for and how you can use that to contribute in a big way out there in the world, you're winning. You're winning every day. Even on tough days, you're still like today, this morning was a very tough day. And by the time I was done with bam, 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 I went out on the ski slopes. My phone starts ringing. It's dumping with snow. I'm standing out there with my hand on the phone, freezing. My hand is about to drop off. I can't do this. It happened 4 times. 4, not once, 4 times. Oh man, I got to change my hand. My hand's too cold. Just change to the other hand. God, hand's too cold. Let's change to the other hand. It was ridiculous. But why were they calling me? Because this is what I do. I solve problems. I'm a problem solver, right? So when you know that and you can manifest that, and this client who's paying us a lot of money said, I'm really sorry. And then she said it a second time, I'm really sorry. And I said to her, please stop saying that you're really sorry. We are partners, because that's what I call all of our clients. We are partners in this situation, and there's no need to ever be really sorry. If I can't take your call, or if I'm not able to speak for very long, I'll tell you, but you never have to say you're really sorry because you're calling me because I'm the problem solver.
There you go. Exactly. And people, that's what I mean by like, just show up with who you are, right? Especially if I see some masters on the call, just show up. You don't have to prepare in advance, because the way you think about whatever the group problem is, you're going to rely on your native uh, um, mind type, and you're going to lead the way to the research that's necessary to solve that problem. Now, go ahead, Richard.
Well, I was just going to say, and let's just, because this is the AI mastermind, let's really bring it together. Although we may not do a lot of AI training tonight, it's so important to understand this for how you use AI. How you speak to the tool is going to come from where your mind type is. When you use PAF AI Brain, obviously we set up all kinds of prompts for you, and there's always new ones, and we're always going to come up with new ones. And if you need something, let us know. We'll come up with it for you. We're now getting very deep into complex prompt writing, setting up knowledge bases that you can use on an ongoing basis, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, let me tell you, the most important thing that we need to really be successful in business is the right mindset. You've got to come up with the right mindset. So today, maybe this call is more about mindset than anything else, because when I think about, okay, I just got asked to speak on a summit in a couple of weeks. And they said, what do you want to talk? It said it's an AI summit. The whole thing is AI summit. They have 1.5 million emails going out, a lot of mega super people going to be on this summit. And they said, what do you want to talk about? I said, I want to talk about how to think like AI so you can win in your business. How to think like AI, how to get the right mindset. Not so much, oh, I know how to build this prompt or that prompt, or I know which prompts I like to use, whatever. But how can you get yourself into a space where you're saying, wait, what are the right questions that I need to ask? Can I get AI to interview me as a problem solver to create the right output based on the knowledge that AI has, not what I know, right? How do we shift our brain into a space of saying the most powerful tool that's ever been created for creativity, productivity, efficiency, research, etc., is at our fingertips right now. But how do I think like that is really what's important. So maybe this mastermind is this call is a little different than what we've done for a while. It is Mind Types After Dark, after all, and sometimes we're a little bit irreverent. But what would I want to hear from both Hubert and Bridget. Bridget, of course, ladies first. What do you think about that? Because literally, I am convinced that the most important thing in understanding AI and how to use AI is how do you shift your mind in the interface with this incredible tool that has never been available so that we can create outputs that are incredible, efficiencies that have never been possible, speed to results that we've never seen before. What do you think, Bridget? I'll let you go first.
100% aligned with you. I mean, when I first started, learning with you and then studying prompting and stuff, you can learn from other people's prompts and you can see results. Like I do work in Midjourney and I look at the different prompts and like, how did they get that, and to get to that mind, to think like the machine or to think like you're going to talk to this machine, I think as a master, it's pretty easy to get there. I think for some people, it's just so foreign. They don't even know what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And what do you say to them when it comes to, if somebody comes to you, and I know they do, so I know you've had this question before, you are a natural teacher. Obviously, you wouldn't be a martial artist for this long if you weren't. What do you say to those people that say, Bridget, I don't know, I'm not like, I don't think like you do, Bridget. How do I do this?
My answer is don't be afraid.
I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Just jump in and start playing.
Yeah.
All right. I was the same question to you, Yubi.
So, all right. So,
by the way, I just have an update.
Yes.
It is ferociously dumping with snow. I'm not sure I'm getting out of here tomorrow.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So we can have an important meeting with that important client you just referenced. Okay, so do you want to know the secret to AI? Using it effectively as a tool. And this is the missing link. Okay. You can be like all day long studying like how to maximize your prompt, this, that, and the other thing. But there's one ingredient to the prompt that unless you have, you will not achieve the breakthrough that you need in AI. Okay. So with that with that build up, everybody's like, oh my God, what's he we're talking about? Okay. So being a subject matter expert is the key. And there's one aspect of being a subject matter expert which provides the key that if you're not, you just don't know. Okay, so we all need to know that we don't know what we don't know. Okay, what does a subject matter expert know that the rest of us don't know? Okay, here's the answer. And I'm going to tell you that this is how I met Ridgely. Okay, I was an avid collector of KPIs and metrics. Okay, starting in 2005, 2004 or whatever, I started a blog that collected metrics and KPIs. And I was working for a publicly traded company and I was helping companies create dashboards, right? This was like brand new at the time, right? I was at the forefront of the invention of dashboards, okay? And I kept talking to various subject matter experts. They were like, well, you know how we know if we're doing well or not? You measure this, that, and the other thing. This, that, and the other thing, if you can find out for your prompt, whatever problem you're solving, and you work this, that, and the other thing into your prompt, it's game over. Meaning, I don't know, you're a roofer, right? And, as a roofer, how many colors a roof tile comes in, what temperature is the latest in the year that you can install a new roof, whatever this, that, and the other thing is that only you as a subject matter expertise know. If you can put that in your prompt, Holy smokes, right? And so what I'm saying to you is all of us as business owners, we have
Hold
an
on.
expertise.
Time out for a second. Time out.
Yeah.
So this is classic master conversation. So I want to point this out to everybody here. Bridget, as a master, totally got what Hubert is talking about. 100%. The rest of us were like, what is he talking about? This, that, and the other thing. I don't understand the this, that, and the other thing piece. I need that broken down into language that is understandable for the rest of us common humans.
Okay,
that
here's
don't have
okay.
giant
So
brain
here,
power, okay?
here's an example. Okay, Ridgely and I don't know, maybe it was 11 days ago, we helped an HR department with prompting to help them use AI to like, solve all of their, issues. Okay. Prior to walking into that, like, we don't have much HR experience, except that as an avid collector of KPIs, I know that there are about 100 KPIs and metrics that an HR manager is interested in. Employee retention, satisfaction, this, that, and the other thing. Originally, this, that, and the other thing. This, that, and the other thing is like, how do you predict? If I ask an HR expert, can you predict what percentage of your sales force is about to quit? Yeah, there's like happiness indexes, there's like disgruntlement things, there's complaints, there's this, that, and the other thing. If you, as the prompt writer for the HR department, write a prompt and say, look at my data set, tell me how many of my employees are currently happy, and compare that against the baseline statistics across, the S&P 500 companies, like you wouldn't know how to write that unless you were an HR person. But Ridgely and I, as prompt writers and understanding how AI prompts should be, we know that we don't know the metrics required to make that prompt great, but we know to ask. And that's subject matter expertise. All of us on this call, we know certain things about our businesses that nobody else knows. That's why we are actually the best ones to write that prompt, so long as you understand what prompting is about. So originally, what I'm saying to you is that like the breakthrough to writing the right prompts is to feel enabled as a business owner that, oh my God, because I know my business, I'm more qualified than anybody to write the right prompt. Just show me how to write a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's what I mean. And once you understand that as a business owner, you know your business best, like don't be intimidated or don't be overly like impressed if some like kid shows up and says, oh, look, I can write you this perfect prompt. Well, no, because you don't know the KPIs that I'm worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so now I've forgotten like where this conversation started, as typical of a master conversation. But I do want to acknowledge Dr. Art's comment because, okay, so Ridgely has, I'm not going to say diagnosed, but Ridgely has identified the primary mind type, secondary mind type of probably, I don't know, Ridgely, thousands of people, thousands, tens of thousands. I don't know. Okay.
A lot.
Okay. But there are some tells that in casual conversation, Ridgely is like, before I ask my first question, I kind of know, what's going on here. And that tell has to do with Dr. Art's comment. And so Ridgely and everybody, I'm going to read Dr. Art's comment. And Ridgely, you're going to be like, oh my God, I got to talk about this. Okay, now get this, Ridgely. This is what Dr. Art said. Dr. Art said, if I can find it, don't people who excel at a hobby through repetition take on the cape of a master? Ridgely, what's one of your tells about being a master? What do you ask people about their hobbies?
I say, what are you doing? What other stuff do you do outside of your career, outside of whatever, that has nothing to do with your career whatsoever?
And then what kind of answer do they give that makes you think, oh, this person could be one of those 2% masters?
If they say something like this, I'm always doing something like that. That's the comment. I'm always doing something like that.
And then they give you an example, and then Ridgely says, oh, give me an example. And then the example is going to be something bizarre. It's going to be like this. Okay, so I collect KPIs. Okay, I gave that up. You know why? Because I found another passion. One of my passions is to create the perfect seasoning layer on cast iron. I have some cast iron pans that are probably, I don't know, 170 years old. And originally, I don't know how many layers of seasoning are on this thing, but this thing is more nonstick than like the most modern Teflon based whatever. It is because I know that people before me that have cared for this piece of cast iron, we've laid probably tens of thousands of layers of seasoning on this cast iron. If I didn't have to answer your calls all day long, I'd be sitting at my stove just layering seasoning after seasoning after seasoning after seasoning. The repetition aspects of it is like joyous to me. I cook in my cast iron just to do the seasoning. Never mind, the food that comes out. Originally cooks to produce the food. I cook to season the pan.
And Bridget is smiling like a Cheshire cat over here. I swear she's so smiling. So like, whatever, like I so get where he's coming from. La la la. I have thrown 50,000 punches like this for 35 years just so that I know that I could drive it right through your chest into the wall behind you.
No, well, so there's the thing.
Like, what?
So it was
sorry, but that's just how classic.
It was only after many repetitions that Bridget, I can assure you, started thinking about the effect of her punches, the joy of actually doing the physicality of it. Okay, so I'm not.
Hold on, man. We keep this tight, okay?
Yeah, but now you're surrounded by two masters, and so good luck with that. But you'll rein this in. But here's the thing. So I'm not big on karate, but I am, being Chinese and growing up with the last name Lee. Jim talked about Bruce Lee, right? My cousin. But so I'm big into Kung Fu. Okay. And so Bridget, you'll appreciate that. I haven't gotten very far in Kung Fu. Okay. What I've gotten it far at is doing like a zillion times of like, there's like in Wing Chun, there's like a thing where you go like this. Okay. Like you expand your chest and you just saw like this. That's all I've done. But I've done it so many times that the second I do this, I feel it running up and down my spine, like the effects of this chest expansion. And like I haven't even started, doing any of the other stuff. I'm just like, I'm walking around like Mr. Wing Chun, like this all day long, whenever I get stressed. And now we're totally kicking out, and we're about to lose like everybody on the call. So I'm gonna give it back to Ridgely. But
all right, come on. So
okay.
Let me just bring this home, okay? Let's just bring this home for everybody here, because there is actually immense value in what has just happened. And oh, yes, indeed, it is Mind Types After Dark. So we do have a little bit of fun, get a little bit irreverent. You, whoever you are, with your primary mind type, have things that you do so much better than any other mind type. And when you know that and can acknowledge that, it's super empowering, because we all love to do what we do well. And we don't enjoy doing what we don't do well. So let's start with that. Let's start with that as being a major thing. You love what you do well. You don't really like what you don't do well. So understanding your primary mind type, the way that you operate, your why, is so important to enjoying life. Number one. Number two, when you understand that, using AI to help you express that fully based on who you are and what you believe and what you stand for is a huge asset and tool for your business. It will help you on so many levels to be able to do that. It really will. So just, okay, I'm a problem solver. Let me make that clear in my messaging. I'm a master. I love to go deep. I love to create slides that will cause you to roll over laughing in the aisle when you see them, right? That's a Bridget type situation. I go that deep. That's what I do. You can use AI to help you do all of that messaging as long as it's in congruence with who you are and what you stand for. So today we just had a wonderful Mind Types After Dark mastermind focused more on how do you think like AI? How do you use this tool based on a self-knowledge, a self-actualization, a self-awareness that empowers you to be so good at genuineness that Bridget gets a job offer from somebody who was pretending not to be the owner of the company because they were impressed enough by what they saw that they felt like they had to pretend in the right? You all heard the story. This was not a joke. This happens to me all the time.
Mhm.
This morning, I turned down a massive offer. Let me restate that. I pushed back a massive offer. I got a huge offer for our company to do some stuff really crazy. We've actually doubled the company in the last 6 or 8 months, and this was an opportunity to do it again. I turned them down because I wanted to make sure that out of integrity, we delivered at the highest levels. But because of being fully transparent about that, what do you think the result was that I got? Well, how long is it going to be before you're ready? It was not a, oh, you turned me down. It was a, well, when can we do this thing? And I said, well, just give us a few months and we'll reconvene on this thing and go forward. Much like Bridget had this fabulous result. When you know your mind type and you can express that with genuine limbic messaging using AI throughout all of your stuff, and what Hubert and Bridget talked about, you have immense power that other people, they will never even understand. People don't even know that your expression of your authentic self is influencing them in a huge way. And when you do that, and when you decide, you make that decision, I want to be that person who is so authentic, so genuine, that I can be transparent with who I am and confident about it. I assure you, the tool of AI becomes stronger and your business will improve measurably, not only economically, but with the caliber of people that you will attract because they get you and they want to be a part of what you represent. So I want to really thank everybody for, hey man, we didn't get into a technique. We didn't do, a bunch of stuff in ChatGPT or PAFAI Brain, but we talked about stuff that I think was really, really important. And I want to hear some last words from both Bridget and Hubert about how to get your head in front of this. Because at the end of the day, man, you look at any survey out there and they will tell you successful people, the first thing they talk about is, where's my mindset? How do I see this? What's that look like? What do I have to fix up here so that I can manifest out there? With that said, final thoughts from you, Bridget. What do you want to share with people as a master?
Well, I think it's really powerful to understand your own mind type and the tertiary and secondary, as well as if you can understand the mind types of the people you work closely with. And it took me about 1.5 years of being in your program to really see the power in this. And every time you speak about it, I hear something new. So, what I got, what you just said like 5 minutes ago, is I need to take my mind types description and put it in my master prompt so that this is who I am.
Yeah, for sure. Great. So thank you for saying that. Hubert.
Yes, and similarly, I encourage everyone to start using that messaging about yourself. Okay, oftentimes for many of us, it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about yourself. Okay, and oftentimes when you do it in the wrong way, it comes across as braggy or self-serving or whatever. Okay, Richard is always talking about chest pounding, blah 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 blah, blah whatever. When you talk about you in terms of your mind type and what you believe, then suddenly it's received with people shaking their heads, yes, nodding their heads, yes, right? I believe in doing things 1,000 times to even start getting it right. People are like, oh, I get that, right? Because stuff is hard. You know what? He gets that. I'm going to get Hubert involved if we really need to master this thing, right? Suddenly it becomes just like a description of who you are. And you're not bragging. You're talking about you're talking about it in a way. And also I encourage everybody to look in the modules and talk at the foundations of limbic messaging in light of this conversation about your mind types, and see how when there's a beautiful limbic message, regardless of mind type, people admire it. Even if it's not your mind type. Recently, we haven't shown the Harley ad or anything like that, or any of those Coldwell Banker ads that are limbic message based in a long time, but we should start showing those again, because it's like, no matter your mind type, you're nodding yes at these limbic statements, and they're super powerful.
Man, so I'll just end up with this, and everybody's going to feel this. So one of our newer clients, they run the Banky Awards, and the Banky Awards are the Oscars of community banking. So it's the best banks, and they have all kinds of categories. The best bank according to this, best bank in customer service, best bank whatever. And they sent me this whole huge 14-page, super designed, incredibly looking, whatever, maybe not as good as Bridget, but pretty good thing about the Banky Awards. And immediately, all I thought about was 2024 Banky Awards, this and that, splash, 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 splash. And all I thought about was right at the top, since banks have to apply to win these awards, and then there's independent judges that judge all these criteria. How many deposits do you have? What is your net interest margin? Blah, 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 blah. But the minute that I saw that, all I saw was at the very top, it needs to say, you deserve to be recognized. 2024 Banky Awards.
Awesome.
Right? It's so different. One tiny thing. It used to be 2024 Banky Awards. Now it's, you deserve to be recognized. The 2024 Banky Awards. Right? You guys get this. It's magic when you really feel it and you put it into everything that you're doing. You put yourself in a different league than everybody else. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for showing up tonight, staying with us for the entire time. Literally, I think one person dropped in the last hour and 7 minutes. Because this stuff is so powerful when we get it. And this conversation was a little different than tactics and techniques, but it was every bit about take what you know and who you are and use AI to enhance that. So since Jim asked the question as we're going out, this would be a ball cap of the two-time world champion, repeated Kansas City Chiefs, just saying. So, and we're looking for a three-peat going on, and I only will wear it once in a while, but just saying, if we happen to win again, becoming the only team ever to win 3 in a row, we'll probably have to discuss that a little further. What that means, right? How does that fit with all of our lives? Because, just saying. So appreciate all of you guys. You are amazing as always. Hubert, next week.
Yes, Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Tuesday, 4 p.m. Is going to be our next mastermind. So just a few days away, everybody. Look forward to joining you and sharing where I'll be at that point, because it's pretty interesting. But I'm going to leave that. I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to enjoy the snow. I might be able to get out of here tomorrow. I might not. If I can, I'll be with you. Hubert, if I can't, I'll be somewhere, try sliding in a van down to thing, whatever. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much.
Yes,
Deeply appreciate all of you. Bridget, thank you very much for participating and helping and supporting. Hubie, love you, brother. All good.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.